Hello, my name is Lydia. I'm currently 21 weeks pregnant and I am very, very type A. My YouTube channel is all about sharing knowledge with women about their cycles and now that I'm pregnant, about pregnancy. So I wanted to share with you guys the big checklist that I made for myself of things that I want to get done during pregnancy and when in pregnancy to make sure that I get everything done that I want to before the baby is born. Because you see a lot of the nesting videos and stuff and hear about all of the things that people are doing during those last weeks of pregnancy, but you don't see or hear about what are people doing, all throughout from the very start. And for me, I wanted it to be more balanced. I wanted to start doing more right away, just in case I didn't feel that great in the third trimester and didn't feel very motivated. I didn't want to leave too much to get done then. And I also would consider myself a crunchy mom and a very, very type A person. So there's some extra stuff that I'm doing that I wanted to share with you so that you also, if you're interested, can make sure you have it on your list for things to be getting done in your pregnancy. So without further ado, let's start talking about the things that I had on my list to get done in the first trimester. Now, for the first trimester, because it is so early, I didn't have very many things. I only have 3 things on the list for this point in time in pregnancy. And the other thing is I didn't want to overdo it because I didn't know how I was going to be feeling. And it's a good thing because I didn't feel terribly sick. I was just so tired that it was I could not get anything extra done. So the very first thing that I made sure to do was to make my first appointment. So I called the hospital of my choice. I booked that very first appointment. You're going to want to do that as soon as possible because it can take you a while sometimes for them to get you in. And the other thing that goes along with this is I had been researching all of the different hospitals in the surrounding area so that I knew when it was time to make that call and make that appointment, I knew who I wanted to be my providers. So that's definitely something that you can be looking into before you even get pregnant or once you find out you're pregnant. Really research because this is gonna save you so much heartache and so much headache if you start off on the right foot. Seeing a provider who you really trust, who you really get along with, it's just going to be so worth it to put in the effort on the front end to not have to deal with it, not have to be switching providers or anything. One thing that I wanted to make sure I looked for was a midwife. I knew I wanted to deliver in a hospital. I didn't want to have a home birth. I didn't feel comfortable with that, but I really like the midwife model of care. It's very centered on the individual and it tends to just be a little bit slower and not so rushed like your appointments. You can actually have conversations, you can actually be asking questions, and they tend to be more holistic, more crunchy, whatever you want to call it. So if that's what you're looking for, then that might be the type of provider that you want. And another thing that I knew I wanted is I wanted the hospital that I gave birth in to have tubs to be able to labor in. And there were just a couple things that I was looking for in a hospital. I ended up picking a hospital that has a newer maternity wing. It's really nice. They have a lot of bells and whistles and they have the peanut balls and everything, the birthing balls. They have the labor tub. I just wanted to have access to all of those things. So just in case you were wondering what kind of things you should be thinking about when it comes to making this decision, those are some things, along with, of course, just checking and making sure that it's in network for your insurance. The second thing that I had on my list to do, once again, right away when I found out that I was pregnant, was to find a doula and book that doula. You need to decide if you want to use a doula pretty early just to give you more options because they are going to get booked out pretty far in advance because, people find out they're pregnant 9 months before the baby is due, and oftentimes people are booking their doula when they find out. So if you choose to use a doula later in your pregnancy, it just might be harder to find someone who's going to be available around your due date. So this was another thing that I had been researching prior to getting pregnant, and then I don't think I had found a doula until I found out I was pregnant. I looked into a couple other places because I kind of needed to know where I was going to be giving birth, like what hospital I was going to be giving birth in before picking a doula, because some doulas might only go to one hospital, or they're only going to travel so far to get to your birth. So that is something that you need to know who your provider is going to be, what hospital you're going to be giving birth in before you can book your doula. As far as kind of things that I was looking for when it came to this, my biggest thing was how I felt talking to them. I am kind of an anxious person, so I don't want to be talking to my doula and be feeling like her talking or her voice or whatever, if that's making me anxious, that's not gonna work for me. So there actually was someone that I did kind of the initial call. You can have a free consultation call. In some places they might do it in person, that you're meeting them in person, or at the very least it's a Zoom call. So you can be talking to them face to face. And there was someone that it just made me, just the way she talked made me so anxious, and it just bothered me. And it's because I'm pregnant and I'm easily bothered, but I was it's a weird thing, but I want to love my doula and be soothed by her presence, not be made to feel anxious. And there was nothing that she was doing wrong necessarily. It's nice to give yourself time, start looking for a doula right away so you have options, so you are able to be picky, because for me, I'm a picky person, so I was picky. One of the other big things that I was looking for in my doula was someone who was a Christian and who would be willing to pray with me and kind of bring that aspect of things into that doula care. That was the second thing. And then the third and final thing in the first trimester, of course, is starting a prenatal. I was already taking a prenatal before getting pregnant, but this was kind of the time that I was really finding a prenatal that was really going to work for me, because once you're pregnant, some things don't taste good, you get a little pickier. So this was kind of my time to find the prenatal that really worked for me, which I did. The prenatal that I've been using is the Smarty Pants gummy prenatals. For me, the gummies were just the easiest to tolerate, and I was happy with the ingredients and stuff. So I've just kind of stuck with that. So that is all for the first trimester. So let's move on to the second trimester. Of course, there is a lot more that I had on my list for the second trimester, and I am currently in the second trimester, so not all of these things are completed. So the first thing that I have is to start prenatal pelvic floor physical therapy, and this is something that I have started. I highly recommend this if you are able to, if your insurance covers it or you are financially able to do this. I would recommend that you find a pelvic floor physical therapist and you book a session before you even give birth. Start working on your pelvic floor health during pregnancy. Your pelvic floor goes through a lot with pregnancy. It's a lot of stress on your pelvic floor. There's a lot of pressure. So you might start experiencing discomfort and issues with your bladder or whatever in pregnancy. And then after birth, you might experience problems too. When you are jumping on it right away and being proactive and learning about your pelvic floor, how you can be relaxing it, different exercises that you can be doing, and how you can prepare for birth and how to push properly and all of these things, it's going to improve your outcome. After birth, you might not have as many issues as someone who, didn't do those things throughout pregnancy. So in my opinion, it should be standard prenatal care. All women should be recommended to do this, in pregnancy. But right now it's a little bit of a luxury, especially if it's not covered by your insurance. Then, if you can't afford it, then it might not be an option for you. But I highly recommend that you look into it at least, because I'm really, really glad that I started doing this, because I didn't have any problems really. I didn't think I did, but it turns out that I'm not very aware of my pelvic floor, and I really needed to learn how to relax my pelvic floor, which is really important to be able to give birth. The second one was to book my birth/labor classes. So typically your hospital is going to offer different birth education classes and like baby education classes. If you're very type A like me, then it's a must. You don't have to do this, but if you want to feel prepared for birth, I definitely recommend it. And I am specifically doing hypnobirthing classes. There's all kinds of different like methods that you can learn to help assist you if you're wanting to have like a unmedicated labor. There's like the Lamaze method, the Bradley method, hypnobirthing. There's all kinds of things. So you want to pick one and then take the class on that method, as well as read the book, listen to podcasts, all of those things to help you really understand it, be practicing it, so it can be a useful tool for you during birth. So that's something that I booked and that I am starting in the second trimester. The third thing is booking our hospital tour. So this is something, again, I have completed. I have booked this for the third trimester. Most hospitals are going to offer this. They're going to offer a tour for you to see like the labor and delivery department, so you can know like where you're going to be going, what things are going to be looking like. You can ask questions. You can talk to some of the nurses. So again, for me, for the type of person I am, this was like a must. Even just to know like where to park, what door to go in, because that can stress me out. So just knowing those things like really can ease some anxiety around that. The fourth thing was to buy baby clothes, 0 to 12 months, or at least 0 to 6 months. And I'm basically done with that. Like I've basically bought all the baby clothes that I needed, especially in that like 0 to 6 month, 0 to 9 month range. Some of the like older ones I don't have yet, which is fine, obviously. But that was kind of on my list to get done in the second trimester. The fifth thing I have is to set up the nursery nook. So I have not done this yet, but what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna like set up the whole nursery room, of course, but also kind of a little corner in our bedroom, because we're planning to have the baby in a bassinet in the bedroom at first. So we're gonna wanna have some like supplies in there, some diapers and everything, a little changing table, so that we have things right there and don't have to like go to the nursery to get everything. So that's something I wanted to set up in the second trimester, because realistically, that's what we're gonna be using first. The nursery, if for some reason it doesn't get finished before the baby's born, like it'll be okay. The last thing that I have for the second trimester is to wash and organize the baby clothes based off of size. And I have done this. Again, this is a little bit like extra. I could definitely wait to do that. But honestly, I just wanted to know how much I had. I wasn't sure how much I had of each size. So I just washed all the clothes, organized them based off of size, so that I could like visualize and see how much I actually had of each size, so I knew what I needed to buy still. That is all for my checklist for the second trimester. All right, moving on to the third trimester. This is a lot of stuff because of course there's just some things that you can't really do until the third trimester, or you'd rather wait to do till the third trimester. The first is actually doing the hospital tour. I know I talked about like booking it, so that's something that obviously is going to happen in the third trimester, just so that it's a little bit more fresh in our minds. For similar reasons, the second thing I have is baby care classes. So we're going to do like labor classes, but I also wanted to do like infant care classes. And there also are breastfeeding classes. So the one that I picked, which is not scheduled yet, but the one that I picked that I want to do is like an infant care class, and it also talks about breastfeeding, the breastfeeding basics. So this is something I'm going to be booking and completing during the third trimester, because we want this really to be fresh in our minds. We don't want to forget all of this by the time the baby's born. Again, this is something your hospital hopefully offers. Otherwise, you can probably find things online, or, you know, maybe at other hospitals in your area. The third thing that I have is to set up the nursery. Like I said, I'm okay if this does not get fully done before the baby comes, because he's not going to be in there right away anyways. The fourth thing I have is to get our car seat and have it checked. Now this is something that my hospital actually provides for you. They offer car seats at like a discounted rate, and they have someone who is trained, you know, in proper car seat use, and they will teach you how to use it properly, how to install it in your car. And I know it's like fairly simple, but for me it's like I want someone who is like a professional in that area to teach me how to do it so that I'm confident. So that's something else that's going to be happening in the 3rd trimester. The 5th thing is related to that, and that's to actually set up the car seat in the car. The 6th is to prep postpartum meals. I want to make a bunch of meals and freeze them before the baby comes so that we have a lot of good, like homemade, healthy meals that are ready to go. And I have seen some people do this like as their baby shower instead of a traditional baby shower. They just get together and like make a bunch of meals to freeze for postpartum, and I think that's such a good idea. I love that. The next thing I have is to prep a postpartum care kit. This is more for like taking care of me, making sure I have all of the pads or diapers or whatever I want to use, and any like herbal supplements that I'm gonna want, the little spray bottle, just all of the different things for postpartum care for taking care of me. I want to make sure that I have ready. I also want to prep some like baby stations, really just have a couple baskets around, like one in the bedroom, one in the nursery, and then one kind of out in the living room that have like diapers, wipes, burp cloths, just, you know, all the things that you're using a lot that you want to have just within arm's reach. So that's something else that I want to be doing at this time. I also want to finish the registry. So that's something I didn't have on the 1st and 2nd trimester lists, but it is something that I like was intentionally doing from the very start. Anytime someone would recommend something or I would think of something, I would add it to the registry. And then later on, if I decided, actually, I don't think I need that, or actually I want a different brand or whatever, then I would change that. But obviously I need to finish the registry at some point. So I'm probably gonna have a day where my husband and I sit down and we crank out like kind of just finishing up the registry, going over things and making sure everything on there is stuff that like we really need. It overwhelms me when I look at someone's registry and I try to pick something out and there's like a million things on there, and it's like I just want to get them something that they really need and that they will really be thankful to receive. So I want to make sure that my registry is simple and it's just things that we really need. So like I'm not putting clothes on there at all. I know people will probably get me clothes, and so it's not something I want to be asking for, and like I'm not gonna ask for any baby blankets, things like that. And there's a lot of things that I have been thrifting, including baby clothes, that I just don't need because I've thrifted. That is all for that. And then I have on here, I want to deep clean the nursery. So kind of going along with setting it up, I want to fully clean it before setting everything up, of course. The last thing I have is to buy a nursing chair. We'll probably want to be going to different stores and like trying them out, sitting on them, find one that we really want. Like I know that I want one that reclines and would be easy to clean and is comfortable, obviously. That is all for my checklist. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you have any things that are kind of like on your list that were not on my list, I would love to hear them, because I know I'm leaving some things out. I know I'm forgetting some things, so honestly, I would appreciate it. If this video was helpful, I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear what kinds of videos that you want to see. If there's any like pregnancy related videos that you are interested in seeing, please let me know. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.